is Emily Thompson, and this is my story. I'm a travel vlogger, 24 years old, 500,000 subscribers who watch me explore abandoned places and haunted locations. I thought I'd seen everything until I went to the Raven Hostel in the Scottish Highlands. I arrived on a cold October evening. The bus dropped me 3 miles from the hostel, and I had to hike the rest through dense fog. When the building finally appeared through the mist, I knew something was wrong. It was a Victorian stone building, 3 stories tall, with narrow windows like empty eye sockets. Moss covered half the walls, but the lights were on inside. It was still operating. I pushed open the heavy wooden door. The lobby smelled of damp stone and something rotting beneath layers of old wood. Behind the reception desk stood a man with dark hair and sharp features. His eyes seemed to look through me rather than at me. "Emily Thompson?" he said in an Italian accent. "I'm Luca Moretti. I manage the hostel. You knew I was coming. I hadn't made a reservation. You're the only guest we're expecting." He slid an old ledger toward me. "Sign here." As I wrote my name, I noticed the last entry was dated 3 weeks ago. Just a first name, Michael. The checkout date was empty. "Did Michael check out?" I asked. Luca's expression didn't change. Eventually, there were 2 other guests staying there. Sophia, a Spanish woman, sat in the common room sketching the same thing over and over. Dark water, reaching hands, faces screaming beneath the surface. Her hands trembled as she drew. Daniel, an American, sat by the window staring at nothing. When I said hello, he turned with hollow eyes. "Don't go to the basement," he whispered. "Whatever you do, don't go down there." Then he went back to staring. Sophia looked up from her sketching. "He's been like that for 2 days, ever since he went down there." "Down where?" "The basement, where the old water tank is." Her voice dropped. "That's where they gather." I should have left right then, but I needed the footage for my vlog. That night, around 11 p.m., I called the elevator to explore the hostel. It was an old cage elevator. I watched it descend, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor. It stopped at the ground floor, but the door didn't open. Then, without me pressing any button, it started going down again. Basement. Through the grating, I could see concrete walls and darkness, and a figure standing just outside the elevator, facing away from me. She wore an old-fashioned dress from maybe a century ago. Her hair hung wet and limp down her back. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, slowly, her head began to turn. I jabbed the button for the 3rd floor again and again. The elevator lurched upward just as her face would have come into view. I didn't see her face. I didn't want to. The next morning, I confronted Luca. "Tell me about the basement," I said. He paused. "Nothing down there but old storage. The water tank. We don't use it anymore." "Then why does everyone talk about it?" "Old buildings have old stories. Guests let their imaginations run." "What happened to Michael?" His jaw tightened. "He checked out early. Didn't like the atmosphere." "In the middle of the night? Without signing out?" He set down his knife and looked at me directly. "Miss Thompson, if you're uncomfortable here, you're free to leave." "I'm not leaving." His expression darkened. "Then stay away from the basement." "That's not a suggestion." But that night, I made my decision. I had to know. At 2 a.m., I grabbed my camera, flashlight, and phone. I found the stairwell to the basement. Each step down felt wrong. The temperature dropped with every floor. The basement was a maze of concrete corridors. I followed the sound of water. The corridor opened into a large chamber. In the center stood an enormous Victorian-era water tank, easily 20 feet tall. Water leaked from a crack near the base, spreading across the floor. And floating in that pool were shoes. Dozens of them. Old shoes, new shoes, sneakers, boots, all floating like a graveyard of lost travelers. I stepped closer, filming. That's when I saw the letters. waterlogged envelopes scattered among the shoes. I picked one up carefully. Please, someone find this. The water, it calls us. We can't. Another letter. Tell my family. Didn't mean to go. The voices. These were messages from people who'd stayed here, people who'd come to the basement and never left. A sound echoed through the chamber. Drip, drip, drip. But it wasn't coming from the pipes. It was coming from inside the tank. I should have run, but I climbed the ladder on the side of the tank. At the top, I found the hatch slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Stagnant water and rot and something worse. I shone my light down into the tank. The water was black, absolutely black, but things were moving in it. Pale shapes, barely visible beneath the surface, writhing, reaching, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Then I heard it. My name, Emily, whispered from the depths. Multiple voices, overlapping, desperate. Emily, join us. Emily. One of the shapes rose closer to the surface. I saw a face, bloated, eyes milky white, mouth open in a silent scream. It was wearing a modern North Face jacket. Michael. And behind him, more faces, some recent, some so decayed they were barely human. All of them staring up at me, all of them reaching. The water began to churn. I fell backward off the ladder, landing hard on the concrete. My camera clattered away, still recording. The water in the tank was sloshing violently. Something was climbing out. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed my camera, and ran. Behind me, I heard wet slaps as something hit the floor. Then another, then another. They were coming out of the tank. I ran through the maze of corridors, water splashing under my feet. I could hear them behind me, dragging, shambling footsteps. Wet breathing, whispers echoing off the concrete. Emily, stay, join us. Emily. I found the stairs and took them 3 at a time. My lungs burned, my legs screamed. Behind me, the wet footsteps grew faster. I burst into the lobby. Luca was standing there, calm as ever, like he'd been waiting. "They've chosen you," he said simply. "What the hell is happening?" He tilted his head. "The hostel needs to feed. The water calls. Some answer. Most answer. You're keeping people here. I'm a keeper." His eyes had changed, darker. "I maintain. I preserve. I guide them to the water." Behind me, wet sounds on the stairs, getting closer. "Why?" "Because I answered the call 20 years ago," he smiled. "I drowned in that tank, but the water gave me purpose. The door. I needed to reach the door. Luca moved to block me, but I threw my camera at him. He dodged, and I lunged for the exit. My hand closed on the handle. It was locked. No. A cold, wet hand touched my shoulder. I spun around. Sophia stood there, water dripping from her hair, skin pale and pruned. Her eyes were empty. "I tried to warn you," she whispered. Daniel emerged from the shadows, equally drenched. "We all tried to warn you," he said. "They weren't guests. They were victims." Luca walked toward me slowly. "You can fight." Michael fought, but the water is patient. I looked down at my hand. My fingers were wrinkled, waterlogged, like I'd been submerged for hours. "The water calls you home," Luca said softly. Sophia and Daniel moved closer. Behind them, more figures emerged from the basement stairs, dripping, hollow-eyed, reaching. I did the only thing I could. I smashed the window with my elbow and threw myself through. Glass cut my arms and face. I hit the ground hard and rolled. Then I ran. I ran through the highland mist until my legs gave out. I collapsed on a forest trail. A car found me hours later, a local farmer who took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. He drove me to the nearest town and dropped me at a hospital. "Stay away from that place," he said before driving off. The doctors treated my cuts and kept me overnight for observation. I tried to tell them what happened. They thought I was delirious. My camera was gone, lost in the chaos. But my phone had been in my pocket, and when I checked the video I'd started recording, the footage was there. All of it. The basement, the tank, the shoes, the letters, the faces in the water. And at the very end, a reflection in the black water. Luca's face. But not from where he was standing. From beneath the surface. He was in the tank, part of the water, part of whatever horror lived in those depths. I left Scotland the next day, flew back to London. I uploaded the footage to a private folder, sent copies to the police. They investigated, found nothing. The hostel was operating normally. No bodies in the water tank, no evidence of foul play. They said the footage must have been staged for my vlog. But I know what I saw. I know what happened. For weeks after, I felt that pressure, tasted metal and rot every time I drank water, saw shadows in every reflection. My apartment pipes whispered at night. Then, 3 weeks ago, it stopped. The pressure lifted. The whispers faded. I don't know why. Maybe the water gave up on me. Maybe I was too far away. Or maybe it's just waiting. I deleted my travel vlog channel. I don't explore haunted places anymore. I work at a bookstore now, surrounded by living, breathing people. I'm safe. I survived. But I'll never forget the Raven Hostel. And I'll never stop warning people. Because some places don't just want to scare you. They want to keep you. Forever. I'm one of the lucky ones. I got out. But Michael, Sophia, Daniel, and all the others are still there. Still in that black water. Still whispering. Still reaching. Still waiting for the next guest who doesn't